Now on BBC Two, the news and sport with Andrew Harvey and David Davis.
The Grand National, the greatest steeplechase in the world, has ended in chaos. After a second false start, the race was declared void, but most horses raced on. At the finish, bitter disappointment for the winner of the National that never was. And the starter was booed from the course. Good evening. The Grand National has been declared void after an amazing mix-up when 30 horses ran the race despite a second false start. There was widespread anger at the chaos and bitter criticism of the Aintree officials. It's unclear whether the race will be rerun. It's been described as the most sensational occurrence in the long history of the National.
There was a sense of impending disaster as the horses came to the tape for the second time. Animal rights protesters had already caused a delay, and there'd been one false start, from which the horses had been promptly and properly recalled. But when starter Keith Brown, officiating at his last Grand National, tried for a second time, the tape snagged around the legs of several horses and the neck of jockey Richard Dunwoody. The starter announced a second false start, but 30 of the 39 horses set off. The recall man, stationed further down the track, had failed to realise what was happening, didn't react, and the horses continued in a race that was already void. From then on, total confusion, still as they completed the first circuit.
And they're being waved past the chair. They're not going to jump it. It just, well, they are going to jump it. They can't believe it.
There was one further attempt to stop the race. It was only partially successful. The riders, suspecting perhaps that it was a demonstrator's hoax, completed a second circuit and attacked the famous long run-in as if it was truly the real thing. Amidst boos and catcalls, Escher Ness was first past the post of the National that never was. It took only a few moments for jockey John White to realise the horrible truth. At first, the starter confirmed that the race might be rerun with the 9 horses that didn't go.
See you in the courts. I never heard anything so stupid in my life.
That one man's anger was reproduced elsewhere. As the mood around the course turned ugly, the starter had to be protected by police from assault. Then, the reactions. Why had the race continued?
I saw cones up, going across the fence, and then I looked again. I didn't realise, didn't think they were going all the way across. And a man, I thought, waved us towards the inside of the chair.
Yes.
I thought some of the protesters had got to the chair, and we jumped the inside. I carried on.
The second time, nobody heard a thing. I didn't know a thing until I saw people waving after I jumped the chair, and then I saw people waving at me.
No flag?
Said, no flag, nothing. Somebody said there was bollards at the chair. Well, I couldn't see. You can't see anything in a race.
And what of the legitimacy of the starter's decision to call a second false start?
In the end, the tapes actually ended up around my neck.
Around your neck, not the horses, around yours.
Around my neck.
Yeah.
The horses treading on it behind. I nearly got pulled off a couple of times. Yeah. So whether I wanted to go on or not, I couldn't.
Clearly, the starter's decision had been correct. Amidst all the confusion, one certainty emerged. The race would not be rerun on the day with a reduced field. It may not be rerun at all, although there is a suggestion that it could be restaged, perhaps at Aintree's November meeting. For the moment, the focus is on the Jockey Club's imminent inquiry.
Bookmakers have pledged to return all the bets placed on the race. That amounts to an estimated £75 million. But they say the mix-up will cause chaos in the betting shops, and they've warned that the Chancellor of the Exchequer may lose up to £6 million in betting tax.
The inquiry into the shambles that was the 1993 National, begun amid the chaos of Aintree and sure to last some considerable time, will centre on the procedures governing false starts. Acknowledgement that they hadn't worked today came within minutes of the race being declared void.
The starter signalled a false start. The recall flag was not shown.
The second time?
The second time.
That was a mistake then?
It was an error, and unless all the horses had pulled up without completing a circuit, the race had to be declared void.
It'll have to happen, a new procedure, flashing neon lights if necessary, but in order to stop a debacle like this ever happening again, it will have to be changed, the starting procedure.
For jockeys, owners and trainers alike, it was the most humiliating day their sport had ever suffered.
I think it is an absolute disgrace that the world's #1 national hunt race is run like this. It wouldn't happen in a point-to-point field in Ireland.
For the bookies, above all, it was a hugely costly day. The National gives them their biggest take of the year, between 75 and 100 million pounds. It'll all have to be given back, and the government could lose 6 million pounds in tax.
I don't believe it. You know what I mean? It should never be cancelled. It's a great horse race. It should never be cancelled.
But if they weren't going to refund our money, I'd have been upset and I would have kicked up a fuss. But these things happen, you know? That's just British sport for you, though, isn't it?
Oh, I only put £5, but it was, you know, it was disappointing because I actually won.
One thing is an odds-on certainty: if the race is eventually rerun later this year, the amounts bet on it won't begin to match what was wagered today. Racing's credibility and cash flow have suffered a costly blow.